For today's topic, we're going to be talking about quad charts. And the motivation came because like NASA solicitation will request the quad chart. If you work with DoD and you want to talk to program managers or people who make decisions, they like quad charts. And we just recently had a meeting with Raytheon last week that maybe some of you were there, and they wanted quad charts, right? And so we're going to talk about quad charts, what they are, why we like to do them, and different uses depending on who's asking for them. Okay, so before we go into quad charts, I want to touch real quickly on what are the technology readiness levels or TRLs. And those were invented by NASA. So, but now it's pretty much a standard that a lot of agencies or prime contractors or potential customers will ask you, well, what's your technology readiness level? What's your TRL before they start working with you? So you'll have to specify in some of these quad charts where you are today and where with the funding you're asking, you're going to be in terms of TRL. So that's why I want to talk about it. Then what are quad charts? What types? A few examples. And then, for instance, how you would go about using your quad charts to communicate and work with prime contractors. So TRL, so what are they? So basically, specifically in the small business or small business innovation research or STTRs, the SBIRs and STTRs, typically when they're looking at giving you a phase one, you're taking an idea from just the idea of it and maybe some basic proof of concept to a proof of concept where you can demonstrate the feasibility. Your idea works. And so in a phase one, typically we will get funded for taking our idea to a proof of concept at a TR level 3. When we're requesting for funds for a phase two, you've demonstrated your idea works, but you want to create a prototype and demonstrate it maybe in a laboratory environment. So you take that idea from TR level 3 to TR level 4, sometimes to TR level 6, depending on the complexity of your project and the amount of funds you get. So TR level 4, you create a prototype, you demonstrate it in a laboratory, maybe a breadboard, if you're doing an electronic board. So you do the layout and you actually breadboard it with wires. And when you finished your phase one, you did a simulation or you did the layout. And here you created your prototype. And as you move up on your TRL level, here's from idea. And here it's already implemented and you've already inserted your technology in an aircraft, in a fleet of ships, or you're already selling it and it's working on your like on the agricultural field or on board a drone, for instance. So you would have those kind of demonstrations, but it's already commercialized. I don't see any questions. All right, so what is a quad chart? It is a one page or a slide on a PowerPoint, which will say as much as possible with as little little condensed. It has to be concise, not very dense. But in one page, when it's created, a quad chart by its name, quad is for 4, so you'd have 4 quadrants. And the information you put on each of the quadrants varies from agency to agency, where you put the information, but usually it's the same information, except when you're being asked to give an overview of your company versus give an overview of your technology and what you're asking funds for. So the funding agencies and prime contractors use this. Sometimes they call it quad chart if it's, the 4 quadrants, or they will call it a technology brief. And the information you're going to find, if you're doing a technology brief, you're going to find information about your technology, who you're going to be selling it to, in what market, who needs it, what are going to be your research objectives, some major milestones to justify your technology readiness level. So you demonstrated your proof of concept and you created a breadboard and you demonstrated that it works on your lab. So that would be TRL level 4. So you put 4. And then you write down your objectives, and you intend to hire someone to actually take that breadboard and create a real layout and print your board with all the circuits, and so then that then you're going to be probably demonstrated in a relevant environment that will be shaking it and exposing it to the elements, or in one of the DoD's Army research labs, and they're going to do all the tests. And then at the end of your phase 2, you might be at a TRL level 6, right? So that's what you would put here with the research objective, similar to something what I just said. What are your differences with other state-of-the-art? What's the benefit and value proposition? And your company. And this is what I always love, graphic or an image speaks for a million words. If your graphic tells the story, you have something, that people could look at and they get it. And of course, non-proprietary information. So if you go to the SBIR.gov, they have this chart, okay? And on this chart, you're going to see the following quadrants. And this is a little bit of a combination of a company overview and a technology overview. So if we look at what you would put like on your company, let's go on this one, which would be easier. What's your mission, when you were founded, how many employees you have, a little bit about your company and your facility, and if you've been selling or not. So pre-revenue, post-revenue, and maybe, you want to focus whoever you're giving this quad chart to, you want to talk about that particular technology. So what are you going to be doing? What method? What's your technical approach? If you have any patents, stage of development, basic research. So here you'd probably be at a TRL level 1, at most TRL level 3. And in this particular example, the value proposition would be to reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. And I personally, and a lot of you who've taken like I-Core, they're going to be stressing to quantify. So I would have preferred this example would be quantifying that value and also who you're quantifying it for. So here the value proposition in this particular one would be vague because we still don't know who the customer is and what that, reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease by 10% for the patients who are using it, and increase the success of the surgery to the surgeons, right? And reduce the costs or the recurrence of coming back to the hospital by 25%, representing $2 million a year to that hospital. I don't know, I just made all that up. So the research need, why is this important? It's who the customers are, as well as why they need it, right? There is no such thing that does this, and they're suffering from diabetes and high levels of cholesterol, and this tool will probably reduce that. Opportunity, here again, it's talking about the need and the problem, the target customer. So I guess in this particular case, they split the value proposition into here your target customer and your market. And the following slides talk about a little bit more about what these sections say, but without the example in red. Why you're seeking funds for the R&D? Do you have specific objectives? Who's the what's the market need, how big is that market, which is your, the total available versus the serviceable available market, who's your target customer, who's going to be the user, or the payer, for instance. And in terms of types of quad charts, we just saw the SBA's generic quad chart, which you could pull out of the SBIR.gov. I have a generic one myself too that I developed for internal communication inside my company, or when the prime contractors didn't use one. This is what I would have to talk to them, or to a program director. This is what I would have to talk to them. So I created one, and we'll go through that. And you'll get copies of these slides if you want them. And then we'll go through a few that I found for you, because these are the agencies that most likely will request briefs. So we'll go through the NASA chart. I'll give you some examples of what the Navy uses. Like if you have a phase 2 and you go through their phase 2 SBIR STTR program, transition program, or STP, I'll show you what that one looked like. One the Air Force uses, which is very similar. And then the Rapid Innovation Fund, that right now I don't think it's active, but a few years ago it was active, and you could request up to $3 million, and it was a phase 3. They would fund companies that would have had SBIRs, and if they liked it, they'd give you'd submit a proposal which included this quad chart. And then I found one by the Veterans Administration as well the other day, so I included it here. And then I'm going to show you what the prime contractors are looking for if you want to do business with them. In the case with Raytheon, they have a company quad chart or brief. And then they also have a quad chart they use for your technology. When you want to ask for a letter of support for SBIR or STTR, that's what you would like. They want you to fill out. And I have the ones here as examples for Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. And then a couple of uses. You could use it for marketing to showcase your company capabilities, or you could use it for SBIR, STTR proposals, or if you have developed technology for some of these government-funded programs, you could use it to communicate with others. You could use it to go to talk maybe to your potential angels as a tool. Okay. All right. So this is my version of a quad chart. And of course, I'm very dense on the objectives because I grabbed them actually from an old solicitation and a project that I worked on that I really liked. And this were the requests from the Navy. And it was to do a network of sensors that would grab the information and do some data fusion. And so here's an image, and I call it a concept of operations, or CONOPS. You'll hear this a lot if you work with the military. But in this particular case, we had some electrodes around or sensors in the body. And this could, the particular case here, I believe it was like for the Marine Corps, or the Navy SEALs. And they would have these sensors, and it would monitor what's going on with their vital signs. And it would gather all the information. This would be a line item for each of the sensors. It would acquire, it would confirm, it would control, and would predict what's going to happen with the information gathered. And so that's basically in here, design the system, get rid of the noise. Particularly in this project, a lot of the issues, like if you move a lot, you generate a lot of noise with the fact that you're moving. So this sensor that the Navy was requesting had to take care of noise from the sensors. And then different applications. So it's, this could be a little bit better, or it could have been bulletized, but you get the idea. Objectives, approach, commercialization applications, and an image. So if we look at some NASA examples, this is, if you go online, you can find this. So again, what are your objectives? What are your approach? An image. I had the image on the bottom. They want it on the top. And some key milestones. What's your current TRL? And who you're partnering with, who you're doing business with. And this is a real example that they put. So this is the blank. And here's their filled out one. So you've got 3 objectives. The approach, typically there is a one-to-one correlation between tasks and objectives. Here's who they're partnering. This is the JPL Jet Propulsion Laboratory with NASA. And here's an image of what they developed. So this is your design, which could be, kind of your phase 1 proof of concept running with simulations. And this is what the prototype would look like. And the milestones that they've currently achieved. And because they've demonstrated their prototype in a laboratory, they're at a TR level 4. And the principal investigator. And if you go currently to the website on their current solicitation and you start looking at reading the solicitation, there's a link to creating your quad chart online. So I didn't play with it, but I wanted you to see that they're asking for something similar for your phase 1 proposals, and you're doing it online as part of their handbook interface, which is how you submit proposals to NASA. And one of the things that's specific to NASA is they like to see, for commercialization purposes, they like to see what are potential NASA applications if they were to give you money, and what are non-NASA commercial applications. So like the dual use, and the military likes to see things like this as well. So for DOD, DOD likes to have the quadrants look at the who, the what, the when, and the how. And you're going to see that on how they've structured their quad charts. And you can go to the virtual transition marketplace and look at a whole bunch of these quad charts. I just pulled one that looked like decent, that would not overwhelm you. But if you go to the virtual marketplace, you can search by keyword, by company, by year, and you can pull off as many examples as you want. And you could see what's been funded. Maybe there's something similar to what you've funded, and you'll look at what they've done so far. And so this would be what they're being paid to do under a phase 2. So who? This is NAVSEA, which is the branch of the Navy that does the ship above sea or undersea. So NAVSEA funds ships and the submarines, or anything that goes under as well. And this would be the submarine, for instance. The target is going to be the submarine 073 program. They don't like to list the TPOC name, so they give you a phone number. This particular company, which is actually out of town, NP Photonics, out of the tech park, they're one of the clients. And so they've listed, and this is all, by the way, public information. I'm not stealing anything that you can't find. And so you'll be able to pull the same information out of the internet, public domain. So they claim their technology would also apply for these companies and programs. And they've made a note because sometimes they want to explain a little bit more about their technology. And here's the way the Navy wants you to put in their chart. And all this is done online, by the way. You drop and fill out information. And the what, they want to know the operational need, the specifications that are required, what you're doing, and what's the value to the fighter. So everything that the military pays for in one way or another is related to the value you're going to give the warfighter. So when you even write proposals, you've got to think and understand what is the value to the warfighter, because that is why the military is funding it. All right. So when you write your proposals, the story has to be around that value. And so what's happening when? So far, they've written down, they'll have a prototype and when they expect it to finish. So this is probably a phase 2 that just recently started, and it's going to be completing in 2 years. Typically they last 24 months, and how they're going to commercialize. So what's their business model? What's their company objectives, commercial applications? And this is the way the Navy does it for their STP program. No ands, ifs, or buts. Here's another one I pulled out. This one's Agiltron Corporation. They're doing some solar cells that will go on this Prion Man vehicle. Same thing, but more information. Everybody's different. They all have different ways of saying what's important to them. So you'll see that style will vary. And here, this image was pulled out of their website, so it gives them, that's where it, or from Alt Energy. If you didn't design something, you have to give credit. And now this is an example of how the Air Force does it. And in here, the when, they like you to do this kind of a chart with the start and completed, the milestones, and again, the who, the what, the how. And in this case, they do have an email address and this picture. And then this is the example from Rapid Innovation Program, where you've got the capability that the warfighter is going to, they're asking for, description of the graphics, the objectives about your team. What have you done so far? What you intend to do? Are there any related efforts? And this is what's important. And usually this information is tied into also a solicitation. So they go together with the proposal. And here's another one also from the RIF at a different time. And it's similar, but they move the graphic to the other side. And here they're asking you to put how much money you're going to be asking for and the risks. And this is that one filled out, and it was it was in 2016 for an APC program. That was probably the topic for the RIF. And this, again, it's like for purposes only. I got this off the internet from one of the Navy sites. So it serves as illustration. But what I want you to get out of this is the different styles and the different requirements from agency to agency and the different purpose. And here's yet another one. So here, for the quad charts with prime contractors, sometimes they use it like an engagement opportunity, which was what happened last week with Raytheon. They wanted to see who is out there and what are their company capabilities, and would they be interested in talking some more or learning more. And other quad charts is ones they do know a little bit about you, and they're interested in some topics as well that come out. Then there could be a matching where you give them one of these tech briefs or quad charts, and then they'll give you a letter of support. So this is what was happening last week. These are the quad charts they were asking for, which was more about the company. not necessarily about the capabilities, a technology you're implementing or developing, but about you and the differences between you and other companies. And where do you see yourself? And what do you want from Raytheon? Many times it's the same thing when you go and meet with investors. At the end of the day, what are you asking from them and why? Same thing here. But I wouldn't go and ask Raytheon for money, at least not yet, right? Until you're ready to sell them something. But we've got, and then this is what the quad chart looks like if you're going after a particular proposal topic, or NASA or DOD, that are the ones. DOD is due March 8th and NASA's due March 13th. And NSF just passed 2 days ago. DOT, I think, is due today. So, but if you're working like with Raytheon or Lockheed, and you know, last week they told us where to communicate, where to subscribe so that you get the list of their interested topics, and you say, oh, they're interested in that topic, then you send them this. And what technology you're developing. Here's a graphic. What the technology is going to do, how you're going to do, what's your approach that will be discriminator when you're doing this proposal. And then what are going to be your actual tasks tied into those activities, and then your contact info. And so you have to make sure that nothing you put in here is proprietary. And then Lockheed Martin's, of course, it's not a quad chart, but it has 5 sections, but similar thing. Your technology overview, what are your objectives, what's the innovation, what's your technical approach, and a graphic. So that's what I have. So we went through all the different quad charts that I found that usually you're going to find yourself doing. You could see that there's various quad charts based on purpose and who you're giving it to. And you need to reach out to these potential partners early enough. And I suggest, you create something that is a combination, maybe something similar to the generic one I created that you use, like if it's a company, like they don't have a quad chart for you to use, you could use one that works for you, so that when you reach out to them, it's like, I think you would be a perfect fit for us to collaborate under this proposal. And here's a quad chart that tells about us and what our technology is and what we intend to do. And you could use it to be a hook, because not all these companies use the same process like Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, right? So if you have something, and sending them an executive summary that's not tied into the information they need for a topic could be confusing, or to just send them an abstract is not going to be sufficient. So that's why the quad charts can become a really good tool for you to use, for them to be hooked on what you're doing, and then give you the letter of support or discuss partnership opportunities. So that's what I have.